Hey everyone, Viperstrike 95 here, and happy Sunday to everyone here, and welcome to the city of Omsk in Russia, as we continue on for our journey through Berlin to Beijing, and this is link 7 of our trip from Omsk to Novosibirsk. So, welcome everyone, good to have you here. Now, it looks like it's pretty fair outside, there's a few clouds here and there, but it's not too bad. So, welcome everyone. I hope you've all had a great weekend so far. Hey, Knights Up, good to see you in chat. It's J52 time again. It is. So good to have you here. Now, before we're going to get going, we're going to actually go over the flight plan here today. So, this is going to be a pretty simple trip. We're going to go 174 nautical miles um, northeast at 70 degrees, and we'll fly from Omsk. We'll make our waypoint to Babarnisk, and then we're going to do another 160 nautical mile to 86 degrees, and we'll head our way to Yatsasova Airport at uniform on Nickel Echo, I believe, and that's located outside the city of Novosibirsk. So we had that for today. So I hope everything's doing well. So before we get going, um, hmm, just I have to readjust these. There. So now let's get back to our Two Cats still flying. Yes, Two Cats is still flying. Yesterday he had a power outage. Yesterday he had a major power outage that got him out of the stream for an hour. Thankfully, that bonus time he did actually paid off massively, as he still made it there in time, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, Two Cats still flying. I'm hoping we can raid his channel. So let's get this J52 started. Oh, bummer. Hey, no worries, Zep. I still gotta do my flight today, so no worries. No worries. We turn on the battery. We go through the checklist. There's the battery. We turn that on. Idle. The fuel supply is off. Parking brake will be set. Pipe heater. We don't need the pipe heater for today. So we're good. Checklist. I'll be with you as long as possible. No worries. I completely understand. Uh, I completely understand. Master starter, check. We go primer, check. Check. Do these two. We open the wobble pump, which is one of the more unique features of this plane. Ignition delay, check. In fact, I'm planning on raiding him today. Like I said earlier, I'm planning on raiding him, so it's not going to be a big issue. There you go. Engine number 3. That's fully complete. That's complete. That's complete. Change the ignition delay. We start the first 2 engines first because, as always, we start these engines first. Hey, friends, all good to see you in chat. Yes, he's over Mexico, and yeah, I'm on flight events too. Nights up as well. Engine good. Turn on the front. That as well. We got that completed. We can now close the wobble pump. Now we can change engine number 2. Then there's another fuel pump right here. Got that off. Fuel pump will be turned off. Everything looks good. Good. And that will complete. That's engine number 2. We got that done. Now we just need to turn off the shot valve in this. And that is off. We're going to go back here and turn on the remaining lights. Nav lights. Beacon lights. Strobe lights. And wing lights. And now we can get ready for taxi. Oh, what's... Did my third engine... I need to restart the third engine. It looked like for a second my engine didn't start, or third engine didn't start. I wonder why I didn't move nearly as easily as I did originally. Oh well. But yeah, good to see you, friend all. So we're gonna take off from one of the other runways. We're gonna take off from runway 07. What is the expected airspeed? The expected airspeed is going to be around 125 knots. Around 125 knots. Just around that speed. GA all the way, man. Yeah, I have to be GA. Just this thing's actually pretty somewhat easy to taxi, so I still need to be a little careful about the wheels. Oh, by the way, if you want to keep track of where I'm flying, actually, I have a new command, actually, and that's the power of flight events. It's actually my tracker. Yes, I have flight events, so that way you probably know where I'm tracking from. We also can follow two cats, which is he's now in the middle of Mexico. Okay, pretty good. Let me set the trim to 0.3. Put a stage of flaps. I can't see you on the flight events. I can see you fine, Zep. Are you on based on a different group? You probably haven't. You probably need to update your flight tracker a bit. You're not Fireflies. Yeah. Oh, that... Alright. There. I just updated it. I'm now on Firefly, so you can now see me. So here it is, the city of Omsk, and I see Night Zep right here. I did fly with Night Zep last night with Kaharia. She was trying to get used to the JU-52 herself, since she's relatively new. So I showed her a few tricks with this thing. Now we can start to stabilize the plane a little bit. So now we got the plane hole stabilized as well. Let me adjust one more thing. The engine sound. This plane's engine can be quite quiet. So. Much better. So the reason I had to adjust the engine sound to be lower is because, well, I had major issues with the Twin Otter. Because the Twin Otter sounds just, I don't know, whenever you put the engine on the Twin Otter, it kind of sounds much louder in the interior than his exterior. Which is kind of odd. Now, the notes say that we're heading our way to Novosibirsk. So, where in the journey, we're going to have to change it to thunderstorms. I think there's a preset I have. Okay. Thunderstorms. How are you getting on with the Twin Otter? I do like it though. The only issue is the sound issues. I know that's going to be fixed in the next update, but I know the sound issues are going to be fixed alongside the autopilot issue, they said. And I expect the update to be done pretty quickly, if you ask me. So we should get the update here pretty quickly. Yeah, you got the Kodiak a few days ago. The Kodiak's really good too. They're, like I said, I think they're both really good planes as well. The Twin Otter has the versatility of the floats and such, and the different models. So the Twin Otter, for me, it gives me by far the more bang for the buck. But the Kodiak has extremely good quality and sounds though. So, and it's far superior to the Grand Caravan. So, I don't know. Both those planes are really good for what you're trying to do. Both are extremely good turboprops on their own. Rentals, join us in the Kodiak. Yeah, Kodiak is okay. Let me point that out. I see up there. I see it behind there, friend. Oh, you got the Kodiak. Nice. Nice to see that you take the Kodiak with you there, friends all. Good choice. It should definitely keep within the 125 knots for this flight. I'm just happy we finally got more good. We're starting to finally get more good planes with Sim. I think that's what's been an issue. I still have problems with the reverse thrust in the Kodiak. For me, the reverse thruster's working fine. I think if it's issues, I think your throttle quadrant probably needs to be set up if I had to think so. But for me, I'm not having any issues with the Kodiak. Maybe it must be your sensitivity or something. I don't know. Because everyone's hardware is different. Not being mean, I'm just trying to be a little honest. It is my quadrant. When I move to third down, first one row down, it jumps into reverse. Yeah, is it your sensitivity? I believe it's your throttle sensitivity needs to be adjusted because it needs some adjustments to make it work properly. So we have friends all here with the Kodiak. He's going to catch up to us pretty quickly. And there's Knights Up here with the Junkers with me. And me in Delta 903. Flying across the trip. So I turn on the settings, I turn on the autopilot for a little bit. So I can focus on cruising. Did you read my last notes about the return trip? Yeah, I did actually. I got a chance to read all the notes. Yes. So they, from what I've known, they had to return there because of all the Chinese warlords and all that. They had to actually return home. So apparently in the return notes, they tried to land at Kungur again, which is to replace the airfield at Kosmets, and they found out that the airfield itself was actually flooded, full of holes. So instead of landing in Kurgan, I believe, they had to find a dry field around 20 kilometers away. So in order to get the fuel, they had to hire a horse and cart from a farmer and make their way to get the fuel. And they arrived there late at night. So yeah, that was one of the notes about the return. Best bit was they had to strand for fuel for 2 days in the era full of armed gangs. Yeah, that was the thing too. Yeah, but I'll talk about more when we talk about it. So that is bootstrap flying. Yep. Yeah, that's bootstrap flying at its finest, you know. Definitely pretty idyllic, though. Whoa, 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 whoa. I accidentally pressed the number on the keypad and now tilted, so... Can you refocus the autopilot? They actually appointed 2 of the crew to present themselves as pilots in case if bandits show up, so the real pilots would be left alone. Yeah, that was something else too. They had to actually do it because you know, it's kind of dangerous out here in the middle of nowhere. There's not like much of police in terms of that. Yeah, it's adventurous times. That's back in the day when things were more adventurous. Definitely a more interesting time period, if you ask me. There's Count Zeph in front of me. He's further ahead than I am. And here's Prince Alf in the back. Head stretch. I should have channel points so you guys tell me I can stretch and all that stuff. Sit, stretch. up, Viper? Hey, Infidel Fireman, good to see you. Yeah, we're making our way to Novosibirsk from Omsk. So thanks for coming along, Blind. Good to see ya. In the beautiful Junkers J52, and I'm not alone. Prince All's got the Kodiak. Count Zepp has gotten the Junkers with me as well. In a beautiful flight over Russia. It's flat, but it's my kind of flat. Ask me. Off the autopilot for a little bit, so I can do some hand flying. Gotta practice it for my next journey. Well, I'm gonna pick classical music. We've got some classical stuff to pick for today as well. So if you guys didn't know, well, what you guys didn't know is I actually got a bit of a rebrand a couple days ago. It was actually on Thursday. It was actually, I believe, yeah, it was Thursday I got myself a rebrand. So Viperstrike 95 finally moved on from his old logo. So I finally got a rebrand, and this one looks pretty cool. So this actually ends up being my new logo. For all those who haven't seen it yet. Let it load up for a sec. Yep, this is my new logo. I made it from Placeit.net. This is one of the free logos I got that you can make. So I finally, Eric Flight, good to see you. Good to see you, Eric. If you guys haven't checked out Eric Flight, he makes some great Flight Sim content. He's doing a lot of historical stuff recently, and someone who likes history stuff, I'm a big fan of it. So check out Eric Flight, please. I think he would be really appreciated. But yeah, it is finally up. I finally moved on with the new logo, which I think is way more professional, way nicer, more professional. I went with the 2 shades of blue. I have a regular blue snake with the green eyes and tongue, and then I had the light blue background since I like my double blues. It was quite the professional logo in that as well. So like I said, I'm very happy I finally got a new logo for my channel. It was a much needed new logo for the thing. No problem, Eric Flight. I appreciate. No worries, Eric. More than happy to give you the shout out, man. I like supporting all sorts of good content creators, and Eric White's one of them. So in the background, Eric, we have Knight Zep here in the Junkers, flying high. And then friends all over here, he's actually in the Kodiak for today. We're actually falling down one of these rivers here. And this is the Reka River down here. Or actually, more specifically, it's actually the River. And that little river, the it's the right tributary of the Eilerich River, which flows through the Urals and all that. And is, in the language of the Barbara Tartars, is the word quiet. So basically it's the quiet river. What aircraft is that? The aircraft I got? Well, Eric White, this is a Junkers Ju-52. And the reason for this is the plane they originally used for the flight was the Junkers G-24. Let me show you what the original... This is what the original plane they used for the journey. The G-24. But since the G-24 isn't in Microsoft Flight Simulator, we had to use a different Junker. Thankfully, since the G-24 is a tri-engine, the Ju-52 was the obvious replacement for the trip. And the whole reason they even did this flight was because they wanted a fast way to get from Berlin to Beijing. But since they couldn't go through Africa, they had, and Germany surprisingly had somewhat good relations with the USSR. They flew through the interior of Russia, which is why, that's why we're flying through Siberia. Knight Zep says these villages down there look idyllic. It is. But, on the other hand, these are also very isolated from the rest of civilization, if you know what I mean. You're out there in Siberia. Not exactly the place you most well know for Yes, probably basic living down here. Yep, that's correct. Now, due to the fact there isn't a lot of great data here, yeah, there's a lot of these little, you know, satellite data. I'm seeing very different scenery live weather. Well, yeah, for all in live weather, all of this would be covered in snow. Because I know we're in Siberia. Yes, why summer? The reason we fly in summer is because that's what the people in real life did. Friend to all, when Charles Noss did his flight in 1926, he had to do it in the summer. If it was winter, it would be an absolute nightmare. I don't even have to describe to you why that would be a problem. However, there is lightning in the distance. So I'm going to change it to thundery but calm. There. So now, then headwind, then thunderstorms in the distance. Yeah, okay, realism. Yeah, you definitely want to avoid the Russian winter. I mean, Napoleon didn't like the Russian winter. Hitler didn't like it. But why would we want to fly in the Russian winter? Okay, I guess flying the bush planes in the winter would be fine, but Russian winter is dangerous. We now set it to the thundery but calm. Now we're on the thunder but calm wet preset. So now that's the one we picked for today. So now that we're about the halfway point, I want to talk about living in Siberia is punishment for shoplifting in some countries. Oh, kidding. No, in the Soviet Union during that time, if you mess with the Soviet government, you'll be sent off to the gulags in Siberia. I mean, that was actually a real punishment, by the way. Exactly. There's the Kodiak. There's Count Zepp and the Junkers. So I'm actually going to go for this week's PowerPoint topic. I wanted to finally talk about this week's topic, since I didn't do it last Sunday. And today, my topic for this stream is actually Russia's music. Now, Russia, for people who don't know, Russia's music is extremely diverse. And that's due to the fact that Russia has so much, there are so many different ethnic groups, each with their own music. The its musical culture is very, very strong with all sorts of different types of music. Russian music itself went through a very long history, beginning with ritual folk songs and the sacred music of the Orthodox Russian Church. But with the Russian Age of Enlightenment, classical music entered Russia from the rest of Europe, and it created some of the world's greatest composers actually came from Russia. And then in the 20th century, produced some great artists as well, for guys like Igor Stravinsky, as well as Soviet composers and modern Russian popular music, like rock, hip-hop, and pop. Now, Russian music also contributes a lot of contributions from different ethnic minorities that populated the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, and modern-day Russia. So there's all sorts of different kinds of music from different ethnic groups. I mean, there's music from Chechnya, Karelia, obviously ethnic Russian music or Russian folk music. There's from the Tatars, the tuba, which is basically similar to the ones in Mongolia, and even Ukrainian music as well. So all sorts of different kinds of ethnic music from Russia you can find all over the place. Very deep. Check out some the late 19th and 20th century classical music when it was at its height. Yeah. Here's the thing, I'm a modern guy, but I like classical music. I'm actually a man of culture. I actually like that sort of thing. I like it more than like country music and all that. I actually like classical stuff. So the history of Russian music in Russia has a very long history. So we get to the first part is the early history. The early history of Russia goes all the way back to the Kievan Rus days. And right here is actually a painting done by Viktor Vatsnev, and this is his painting of medieval gusli players. Which basically, gusli is one of the oldest East Slavic instruments. It's a multi-string plucked instrument as well. It has different relatives in Europe, including the cantel in Finland and the zither in Germany, which is one of the old string plucked instruments during that time. And there's actually videos of it as well. You can find things about this instrument. But this is what they did for a lot of the Russian folk music back in the day. Now, it says here, the written documents that exist describe the musical culture of the Rus. The most popular musical instruments of that time was the string instruments, such as the gusli, which is mentioned here. Now, during the time of the popular music, however, was all about the singing stuff. Mainly, balinas about the folk heroes were often sung. And basically, balinas is basically epic ballads. It's the Russian term for that. Sometimes with instrumental accompaniment. However, the major issue with this is when Russia became Orthodox. And during that time. And during that period, Russia became part of music. During the Tsardom of Russia, two major genres were formed by Russian music. First was the sacred music of the Orthodox Church. And finally, the secular music used for entertainment. The sacred music itself actually draws all the way back to the Byzantine Empire. And that's because Russia's actually Eastern Orthodox. In fact, Russia prides itself for being the third Rome, because it survived the Eastern Orthodox traditions. The key elements of Russian Orthodox bell ringing and choral singing were often part of the traditional Orthodox music, and it's still even here to this day. Now, secular music, they included many different instruments like fiddle flutes and string instruments, and they usually be played on holidays by someone named of a skarmo, which is an East Slavic harlequin in gestures. Now, during the reactionary period of the Great Russian Schism, which was the separation of the Russian Orthodox Church as well, they were often, secular music were often banned from plying their trade. And even though, despite the restrictions, obviously, some of their traditions still survive even to the modern day. Which I think is pretty cool about the music. But what really put Russian music over the edge was during the 18th century. Peter the Great helped modernize Russia. And by the time Ivan IV came around, aka Ivan the Terrible, he invited Western composers to fill the void of music, and mainly classical music. And by the time of Peter the Great, these musical artists were a fixture of the court. And even though Peter I wasn't really inclined towards music, he saw the European music as a way of civilization and westernizing the country. However, the big part about Russia was during Catherine the Great. She helped bring it to the forefront of stuff, as it spread through the popularity of the music through the aristocrats. Well, in fact, it became so pervasive that many people were not even aware that Russian composers even existed, just because of the popularity of classical music. Now, the focus on that European music itself meant that a lot of Russian writers had to write in Western style if they wanted their composition to be viable. And their success, for the most part, has been variable. However, during the 19th century, saw probably the biggest change. One of the first great Russian composers to do so was Mikhail Glinka. Now, Mikhail Glinka he wrote his two early Russian language operas, Ivan Susanin and Rushin Lumina. And while they were not the first Russian operas to be in the Russian language, nor the first by a Russian, they used distinctly Russian tunes and themes in the vernacular to give the Russian classical music its own character, if you know what I mean. But it was actually the next generation of composers that really changed it. There's a group itself called the Mighty Five, and the Mighty Five itself were five iconic Russian composers. They include Mili Balikarev, Nazar Sui, Modest Mosgagari, Nikolai, Rensky, Korozkov, and Alexander Borodin. And these five collaborated from 1856 to 1870, and they bring in some huge parts into Russian classical music. All sorts of different tones, scales, symphonies that make it quite the unique. And their influence have taught many of the great Russian composers who were to follow, including Igor Stravinsky and more. Very iconic people as well. And they use Russian national traditions into classical music to give it quite the unique. Also, that period was founded by the Russian Musical Society, which is actually currently back, and they were led by composer pianist Antis and Nikolai Rubinstein, who are actually siblings. And the two organizations are now rivals, with the Mighty Five embracing Russian national identity, while the Russian Musical Society was more conservative. However, one of those conservative people was a guy named Peter Eilerich Chachosky. For many people, he is the most well-known Russian composer in the outside world as well. And easily the most famous successor of him was Sergei Rachmaninoff, which Chachosky actually taught him how to do it, and being one of the great pianists of all time. In the late 19th and early 20th century, 3 more Russian classics. Igor Chachosky, Alexander Scriabin, and more were experimental in their styles. Created Russian classical music into a unique area of flavor. Now, for the 20th century, Russia's music has greatly changed, and that was because of the Russian Revolution of the 20th century. For example, the 1920s was an era of avant-garde experiments, meaning classical music wasn't really a big deal, as new trends were actually established, meaning classical music wasn't really that well known. And then in the 1930s, under Joseph Stalin, they favored more conservative elements of music, as music was forced to be contained under the boundaries of content. And there were several more classical music things as well. In addition to this, jazz was introduced to a lot of Soviet audiences as well. And of course, film soundtracks were big too, alongside electronic music as well. The 1960s and 70s were most well known for the beginning of modern Russian pop music. It started with voice, vocal, instrument, and cymbals, and then later on it formed on full-on bands. And it also saw lots of different pop stars, including Alia Pugacheva, who we'll cover a bit later. And many of them still remain popular to this day. And they were mainstreams of Soviet music only, which is pretty cool. The golden age of Russian rock was considered to be the 1980s, however, was the golden age of Russian rock. With censorship mitigated, there were all sorts of different rock clubs that opened in Leningrad and Moscow, and rock became mainstream in Russia, and included bands such as Kino, DDT, and Grozdenskaya Obrona. Were all very popular bands during the time that led to the 1980s rock. And finally, I didn't cover this, but the 21st century has had quite some interesting changes in Russian music. Russian pop music is still really popular as well, alongside with rock becoming a major influence still, especially in modern Russia, where national radio still promotes rock music, and they host one of Russia's largest festivals. There's also electronic music as well that became more popular by the internet. However, there's still some rise in classical music and stuff, and the 2000s also saw the rise in musicals as well. And finally, the 2010s itself saw the popular Russian hip-hop, and especially rap battles itself. So overall, that's kind of the music of Russia. Russia's musical history was quite interesting to talk, for the least. This is just the basics of Russian music. I'll talk more about the performers once we get past Viperstrike, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the history itself, which I think is very interesting. Pretty cool. So let me get a count. Let me get back to the flight. There is Count Zepp here. Pardon my French, but a very few years ago, the Russian France band Pussy Riot was sent to Siberia, I think. That is a good question, actually. I may want to look that up. There's Count Zepp, and there's French All. Probably should have not said that because it's obviously... They were sent to Siberia. I don't think they were sent to Siberia, I believe. I follow the railway line again, says Ansep. Alright. No worries. That's what actually followed through the entire journey was the railway. So there's the railway line. Now, for much of the journey, this is actually what Dr. Nas and his group have actually followed is the railway line. Let's follow that for a bit. Let's follow the railway line. Maybe not Siberia. I think they still put him in prison. Yeah, still keep an eye on the lightning and stuff. Does the main varieties of ethnic music and reveal the continued tensions over Ukraine? Yeah, there could be. That's a good point. Yeah, there could be a lot of that as well. It could be. Music could be quite unique in terms of musical composures and styles. Oh man, give me aspirin or two. Yeah, probably giving you aspirin. That might not be a bad idea. Let's see. We're around 60 nautical miles out from Viperstrike. The planes itself, or the dark planes, can only be identified by the blowing exhaust pipes with the blue flames. So at the same touch, the two planes exchange light signals. Well, now that we have all these flights, we're still doing that. I believe let me change the time because it'll be near nighttime. Yeah, let me change the time to be more night. How'd you get specific weather? Well, it's a program called SoFly Weather Preset Pro. You can get this in the Orbex store or Sim Market for around less than $10. Is this the one for your photo? Yep, it is the one. Yes, it is, dear friend all. That's what I got for the under 10 euros. You want to do a quick landing near Viperstrike? Yep, let's do that, Knights Up. Once we get near Viperstrike Station, we're gonna land. Absolutely. Yep, we'll land there and we'll do it for the night. Yeah, we'll definitely land there for the night, Knights Up. Let's do it. Do it for the sake of this, we're gonna land. There's no import, but you'll find a field. Yeah, you're ahead of us. You can find the field for us. It's up. They're just gonna keep following the railway line. This looks like one of the other towns and such in the area. One of the. Let me open my stat. This is Shawnee, I believe. It's Yanni, I believe. I'll drop some flares. Drop it. No worries. Found the Russian rail line. Flares. So now let's talk about the place we're going to be landing. We're going to be landing at Viperstrike. Now, Viperstrike, for those who don't know, it's located at the Baraba Steppe in the Novosibirsk Oblast. It has a population around 30,000 people as of 2010. It was founded at the end of the 19th century and was granted as a town status in 1917. The most important economic sections of the town are the production of building material as well as the metal and agricultural industry. So there's not much about the place to talk about, considering it's just not a big deal, but that's where we're going to be stopping Bear as well. Just lower them altitude nice and slowly. Go back to the cameras. Sprint to all and count Zephyr both still ahead of me. Just keep following the rail line. nice peaceful line here. Yeah, dude, there's not much in the way of scenery. Though I know later on in the trip we would have more scenery, especially once we get to some of the mountains and the next two ones, like Viacol. And through China would definitely be more interesting in terms of scenery. Following that route. Back cockpit. So once we follow the railway line, we'll be heading to Barabinus, which should be around another 30 nautical miles, I believe. Yeah, around another 30 nautical miles. We'll land there. I'll take a quick bottle break, and then we'll get back near tomorrow morning. Just need to stretch. be a laneway. Turn on the land lights, I believe. So now we keep going around the railroad lining. No. I'm going to proceed to speed up the plane. I'm going to clean. So we're nearly there into Barbinisk. Satellite imagery is a bit glitchy here. Yeah, there's not a lot of great data, Zep. Like, Russia's so large and it's in a lot of the Siberia is isolated. There's not a lot of great satellite data options. now we're getting to upgrading this pretty soon. I think we see some of the lights in the distance. That's our destination for our first stop. Yes, I can see houses. Nice. Man, look at that. That is amazing. Wow. Here it is, there's Barfinis. You should find an airfield pretty soon. Looks like Zev's already found a field for us. Now that we found the field, so Knights has found it for us. I'll see if we try to land here. So Nightsev's already figured out a field for me. He landed over here. He's landing over here on the highway. Go, we're gonna land in the field. There we go. That should be the stop. Let me go ahead and shut down the engines for the night. Turn off the mixture. Alongside, turn off the lights. Okay. Now, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and take a bit of a bio break. So I'll be right back, and then we'll go through for the night. All right. So I'll be right back, everyone. See you in a few. See you in a minute or two. Hey, I'm back now, so let's talk about something about the notes. So once we reached Barbarisk and landed in the airfield, we had to actually sleep in the planes. And the fuel itself has been delivered by horse and cart in the morning. So let's wake up early in the morning then. So it would be on August 28, 2022. So it's now early in the morning, and it's actually pretty sunny. So clear skies for the morning here today. Now, after we land, we actually completed our next leg from Korozkov to Barbarisk, and it took us about 1,440 kilometers to get from Korozkov to Barbarisk, and that covered 1,440 kilometers. It's the same thing if you travel from Berlin to Naples. So that's pretty impressive for the leg during that time. In the morning, the fuel is delivered by horse and cart in the morning, and they take several hours to fill in the tanks because they had to actually use hand pumps in time. But eventually, we're now back to full for our Ju-52s. While the pilots walk around the runway checking for obstacles. And then on the 28th, we get ready for takeoff. So let's turn back the engines again. I set it here. So with all three engines back onto the plane, we'll be ready to get back on our takeoff. And then we'll head our way to Novosibirsk for we'll get back into the railway line, and we'll be heading back to Novosibirsk. So let's follow the railway line again. This. And we're off. Is this the legendary Trans-Siberian Railroad? I think so. This is very much the Trans-Siberian Railroad. I will have to talk about the Trans-Siberian Railroad at some point. I think it probably is the Trans-Siberian Railway. Yep, it is the Trans-Siberian Railway. That is the railway we follow. It very much is that famous railway. I should mention it. I should probably have a topic about the Trans-Siberian Railway. I probably should talk about it. I should probably talk about it next week, maybe. Is talk about the Trans-Siberian Railway. That's the railway we follow for much of the journey. I probably should. Maybe that'll be next week's topic. The Trans-Siberian Railway. Yeah, it is a good idea because the Trans-Siberian Railway is one of the few recognizable landmarks in this area. you'll be AFK for a few minutes. No worries, Nights Up. See you in a bit then. Hey, Scotland Speedbird, good to see you. Good evening, man. Good to see you. We're on our way to Novosibirsk to complete leg 7. We took off from the airfield at Viperstrike. So that's what we've been doing. We're just heading our way there. So it's good to have you here, Speedbird. I hope you've had a great weekend so far. Nice, and that the Junkers? Well, yeah, it is the Junkers. It's the plane I've been flying through the entire journey. I'm taking the Junkers for all of it. So I'm flying through most of the interior of Russia. I like the Junkers. It's good to fly. Yeah, I like the Junkers for the same reason. It's really, really nice to fly. It's really nice to fly. It's a piece of vintage aviation history, which I like. And it can serve a wide range of roles, by the way. You don't have to just use it as an airliner. You can take this on the bushes of Papua New Guinea if you really wanted to. There have been examples in real life people taking it there. It's just an all-around very versatile, it's very versatile. So I see friends all a bit later here. I know 9 Zeb's ahead of me. 9 Zeb is the one who's been helping me out all of the journey today. Throughout this entire journey, he's the one providing the notes and everything. Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I know about the group actually. Well, actually, the whole reason for the name of the band was that he visited, he went through the Trans-Siberian Railway in Russia during the 80s. Paul O'Neill was the one who actually visited there. tell. Yeah. And I think I just told different, like, because Paul Neal, one of the people involved with other bands, visited Russia at one point, and he visited Siberia through the Trans-Siberian Railway. And the common safety thing was music, and that's why he named it Trans-Siberian Focus. Thanks. No worries, friend. All. That's actually why they got the name. It wasn't a coincidence. There was actually. So I'm checking on my appointments. So Two Cats is all the way deep into Mexico. I wonder if he's gonna land. I wonder where he's going today. I'm curious. Definitely a beautiful day, beautiful morning here for one. The Orient Express was another famous railroad. Yeah, Merck went through that actually. It's been a couple months ago, but Merck went through the Orient Express. Most famous was the Agatha Christie mystery novel. Yeah. Yeah, Merck actually did the Orient Express. It was one of his Monday streams that he used to do on YouTube back in the day. The journey we flew for that trip was actually the original Orient Express. So we had to go through Paris, Strasbourg, Munich, Vienna, Budapest, Bucharest, Varna, and Istanbul. That's the one we flew on our trip. Yeah, I remember about that. Burn on the Orient Express was the name of the movie. Cool. I've never been on YouTube streamers. Yeah, Toontown Murphy actually is the streamer. Yeah, Fred All. Murph was actually the one who did it. Toontown Murphy, he's actually the main community I represent. Fred All. Oh, yeah, Toontown Murphy was the one who did it. So it was one of his older series he did. Which I think was pretty cool. getting back to the cockpit. But there are other Orient Express routes. There is one that took from London to Athens. And the other one took all the way from Calais all the way to Venice. Orient Express. And there's one from Paris to Lausanne, Milan, Venice, Belgrade, Sofia, and Istanbul. They usually end at either Istanbul or Athens. He also did Route 66. He did the 7 Wonders of the World. He did that on YouTube. He used to do a lot more on YouTube before he became a Twitch partner. So, and by the way, for it all, he's changed a lot since I watched one of his older streams when he did Ireland. He is completely different back then. Yeah, for some reason the name of Orient made me think of China. Yeah, I think that too. Orient is usually a term for the East. It belongs to anything in the Eastern world in relation to Europe. So it means usually the continent of Asia, which is why the Orient Express was to like Istanbul, because it was closest to Europe that's still in the East. I did see some of the 7 Wonders. So I'm going to probably go ahead and I want to talk about the second part of my slideshow for today. So the second part of my slideshow for today is we're going to talk about famous Russian musical performers. I picked 4 of them for today. So we'll get to know each of the 4 major Russian musical performers. And I actually have good reasons to pick those 4. Considering these are all have been very important in the history of Russian traditions. And one of the first people I picked for this one is actually a guy named Mily Balakirev. Now, Mily Balakirev was one of the members of the Mighty Five. And his role in here was huge because he was known for promoting musical nationalism when he was a major composer. This means he used a lot of Russian national identity and stuff in his music, including the traditional folk and all that stuff, and it made Russia kind of unique. And he extended the fusion of the traditional folk music and classical music practices done by the earlier composer Mikhail Glinka. And in that process, he developed musical patterns that could express over national feeling. I probably should have also covered Mikhail Glinka because he was the first one to actually put Russia's music into it. But Balakirev was important, as he also inspired more Russian composers, mainly Eilerich Chachosky, and trust me, we'll get to Chachosky pretty soon. And in that process, he developed musical patterns that can express that. After there breakdown during later in his life, he returned back to classical music, but did not wield the same influence. In the 1850s and early 60s, he brought the composers known as the Five as well, and formed some of the great classical music during Russia during that. As a composer, he finished major works, but he finished them years after he started, which is his most famous work, the First Symphony. While he began it in 1864, it didn't take all the way to 1897 to actually complete it. The exception was his fantasy Islami, which is for solo piano, which still remains popular for its virtuosos. But that's kind of his style, is that he has very different. He is known for his symphonic works with unique Russian character. And he also believed in program music, which is music written to fulfill a program inspired by a portrait, poem, story, or other non-musical source. And unlike his other compatriots, the musical form always came first. So he had some really unique influences as well. And his leadership throughout it made it extremely important for Russia's musical traditions to continue on. So definitely a very important guy, at least. So the next one is going to be Nikolai Rensky Korozkov. Now he is actually one of the great composers of Russian history. He is a master at orchestration, and he is known for some of his 15 operas. His most famous being the Capriccio Espagnole, the Russian Easter Festival Overture, and his symphonic suite Chachosky are staples of classical music repertoire as well. Like the previous guy, he believed in a naturalistic style of classical music, as he incorporated Russian folk song and lore with exotic elements known as musical Orientalism, and he eschewed the traditional composal methods of the West. Though he did appreciate the techniques after becoming a professor, though, but he became really a master at it. So for much of his life, he combined all that composition and teaching with his career in the Russian military. And then he worked as part of the naval branch. And as a result, he had a passion for the ocean as well. In fact, that love of the sea influenced two of his best-known works. Also, Saduko, and then obviously Chernhorzade as well. He passed away in 1908 in Lubyansk in St. Peter's government of the Russian Empire. But his music was very influential during the time of Russia. His orchestral works made him very famous in the West, but his operas were extremely complex and featured a wide range of different orchestral effects than in his instrumental work. So there's a lot of different works. In fact, his best known example is obviously The Flight of the Bumblebee. Yes, he was the one who actually did Flight of the Bumblebee, believe it or not. That famous orchestral composer is world famous, actually, which has been heard by orchestral programs and countless arrangement transcriptions all around the world. He also did other ones too, as well, include Dance of the Tumblers from the Snow Maiden and Procession of the Nobles from Maida, are all still been popularly played throughout the entire world. It made him a very, very famous composer. Then this is the one most in the West probably know of. His name is Peter Eilerich Chachosky. Now, Chachosky has a very interesting history. He was the first Russian composer whose music would make a lasting impression internationally, and he was honored in 1884 by Tsar Alexander III, and he was given a lifetime pension. Though he was medically precocious, he was educated for a career as a civil servant. And even though there wasn't much opportunity for a musical career, he took advantage of it and became part of the St. Petersburg Conservatory of Music, which he graduated. And unlike the other Russian composers we talked about, he was more Western-oriented, and that set him apart from the more nationalist movement of the Five. and he had a relationship between him and the five that made him quite different. Though his training set him on a path to reconcile with the native music practices, and that he forged a personal but very unique style of Russian music. Now, despite his popular successes, though, he had a lot of personal crises and depression, including some of his issues in the past. Also, interestingly, and here's something a lot of people don't realize about Chachosky, he was a homosexual at that time, which he kept private. And this is very odd, like, not a lot of people think about it, but yeah, there were people back then that were homosexual. But because of the fact the Orthodox Church had such great power, he had to keep it private. Now, while his music still remained popular among audiences, the critical opinions were still initially mixed, but over time, people would more accept Chachosky's music. But some of his greatest works, obviously, of course, included the Nutcracker, Romeo and Juliet, the Nutcracker, and the world-famous 1812 Overture, which featured the canons that we see here in it. Now, his musical creative range was a wide and stylistic emotional range, from salon works to grand symphonies. I mean, quite the versatile composer. He had also a sweet melody as well, and he found a way to make his harmony, rhythm, and structure work. And of course, he also was known for his repetition as well. So definitely a very important and legendary Russian composer. Definitely he is probably Russia's most iconic musician. And then I picked someone more recent, but actually I have a good reason for this. The final person is Alla Pugacheva, who is actually still alive. Now, in 1949, she became one of the Soviet Union's most popular artists. And she's Russia's biggest pop star. She had a repertoire included 500 different songs in various different languages, including Russian, English, German, French, Kazakh, Hebrew, Finnish, and Ukrainian. She had over 100 different records sold. In addition to that, her albums were also released in Japan, Korea, Sweden, Finland, Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Bulgaria. And she, believe it or not, has sold over 250 million records. Now, we haven't noticed and verified it yet, but to put this in perspective, if this was reputed to be over 250 million, that would put her in the range of artists. That would put her more than artists such as Pink Floyd and Rihanna, and right around Led Zeppelin. For cleansed sales, it would put her above people like Rihanna, Led Zeppelin, Madonna, and Elton John. Potentially even more certified than all those artists, which is pretty insane to even think about, that someone would sell more than Elton John. Now, she is most known for her clear mezzo-soprano, which means she has her strong opera voice as well, and she even became the People's Artist of the USSR in 1991, which is the highest honor of any musical artist in the country. She was also won for the Lyra of the State Prize, which is a very similar one, but for the Russian Federation, and the Chevalier for the Order for the Fatherland in different degrees as well. Very, very famous artist. She is to Russia what Madonna was for the United States for female music artists. A big deal, if you ask me. At his TNT anniversary show, we showed his early work, and he was almost professional. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I could never go back to watch Two-Tone Murphy normally. It's just it's completely changed, almost unrecognizable. Hey, you're back, Night Zep. Good to see you. So we talked about some of the famous Russian composers and artists. So we talked about that for today. So we talked about Chachosky, and we talked about Alla Pugacheva. We talked about Mili Balakira and Nikolai Rensky Korozkov. We talked about all those artists today. So we're now only 97 nautical miles away from our destination. It's such a pity that these stupid rules don't let you play some of the music. Yeah, but I'd rather follow the rules and not get in trouble. So, that's why I'm still playing some classical music here. But no, I would love to play a bit of the Flight of the Bumblebee and all that. That would be really cool. But yeah, the rules. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't really play it. I don't want to take any chances with the copyrights. Like, I'm a smaller streamer. I don't want to take any chances. So Count Zap's here, so we're going to go ahead and pull back to... So there's Count Zap, there's going to all... And yours truly. yeah, what a nice day for flying out here. That's why I was asking about the jump seat media player. If it lets you play what's in the radio stations in the area you're flying. Uh-oh, not convincing Siri. Yeah, the satellite data is not so great. That's why I was asking about jump seat media player. I may want to take a look at that. But the issue about jump seat back radio is, I don't know about the copyrights and all that. Again. I mean, if I was doing this on my own, I would play it, but on this stream, I can't. You'll have to run it separately from the sim, but like little nav map, it knows where you are. I know it's not very good for streaming, but yeah, if I'm going to use jump seat radio, I'm using it for solo. I'm not going to take a chance. I'm not going to take a chance of doing it on stream. Yeah, I had some great after music during when I did my Cape Town flight. Ah, nice. I probably should give it a download then. I just had to remind myself to turn it off during. Some of the stations I made a note of and how they programmed my net radio tuner. Oh, okay, it's a separate app then. Thanks a lot, 97. I probably should get it. Yeah, it is separate. When you start it up after you start flight, it only shows stations in the area. Yep. Ah, got it. Thank you a lot. I'm getting it right now, so I'll probably use it during the flight after I do this. We're only now 69 miles away. Nice. We're only 69 miles away. unfortunately, the terrain will get more interesting in the next stages. Yep, because the next stages, because the next couple stages would be more interesting, especially once we get to from Krasnodarsk to Irias to Terrorship, and from there to Chita, for example, would be much more interesting in terrain. We would be going through quite a few of the high peaks and stuff. Yeah, we should see the river, oh, soon. Yeah, the old river, that's right. The old river, forms with the Eilerich, forms the world's 7th longest river system. With the Eilerich, the Eilerich forms the world's 7th longest river at around 3,360 miles, or 5,410 kilometers. It forms the confluence of the Via and Katu rivers. The main city is obviously Novosibirsk, the largest city in all of Siberia, and Russia's 3rd largest city, actually. Now, the Ob River has provided use for irrigation, drinking water, and hydroelectric energy. It also has fishing hopper as a host to more than 50 species of fish. Until the earlier 20th century, a particular river port was located in Tiumen, which is located on the Tura. And the only way we would attempt to really to extend the navigable system was using a series of canals. But that was fixed when the Trans-Siberian Railway competed, which meant it connected a huge expanse of the Tiumen and Tomsk Fault. It's been pretty cool to talk about the river. Let me get that pocket. has definitely been a very peaceful journey. I appreciate everyone who's been around me so far. Count Zep, friends all's been with me so far. Thank you everyone for being here. But let me go ahead and talk about the final destination we're going to be heading for today. That being Novosibirsk will be our final destination for today. So Novosibirsk is the largest city and administrative center of its own oblast, and also the Siberian Federal District. With a population of 1.6 million people, it is actually the largest city in all of Siberia, and unbelievably, it's actually Russia's third largest city behind Moscow and St. Petersburg. And this place was founded all the way back in 1893 on the Ob River as a crossing point of the future Trans-Siberian Railway. The city was ravaged by the Russian Civil War, but during the early Soviet period, it recovered and gained its present name back in 1926. Under the leadership of Joseph Stalin, it became one of the largest industrial centers of Siberia, and following the outbreak of the Second World War, the city hosted many factories that were relocated from the Russian core territory. And the city is now home to numerous Russian corporations, alongside fellow landmarks such as the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral in the Neo-Byzantine style, the Novosibirsk Opera and Ballet Theater, as well as the world-renowned Novosibirsk Zoo. Pretty cool. We'll be visiting Yeltsinova Airport for today. That would be Now the notes say that we will actually land in UAE, but Depp didn't know where he was going to land, since there was another airport here, Chivo International Airport, and then there was a smaller airfield as well, which is the North Airport as well. So I think some interesting choices. Now, Novosibirsk is home to many Russian companies, including Novosibirsk Aircraft Production Plant, which is one of the largest aerospace manufacturers in Russia, as a subsidiary of Sukhoi, the Center of Financial Technologies, and the Airmarco Food Company. Well, some notable people include the three-time Olympic wrestling champion Alexander Karelin, and pop artist Pelagea was from here too. So these are just two notable people from Novosibirsk. So that covers ours, the final destination. So that is going to be it for today's flight. We're about 36 nautical miles out from Novosibirsk. We're going to land at runway 01. We're going to fly over the Om River and into downtown a little bit. We're going to fly a bit on the banks of the river, and we're going to go into downtown. It's in my imagination, are there dozens of nav stations and 3 airports in this area? Let me check. Yeah, there's a ton of nav stations in this area. Yeah, there's a lot of NDP stations in this area. If I were to guess, because Novosibirsk is Russia's third largest city, it's also home to one of Russia's larger airports at Novosibirsk. That's, from my opinion, why there's so many of them. Actually, yeah, Novosibirsk, which is the one we're going to be seeing on our right pretty soon, is Russia's 6th busiest airport. Get back to the cockpit for a bit. Bro, you need coffee. Yeah, I probably could use coffee right now. I had to consider where Nos had landed. Some airports are too far away from the city, others too new. Nos always flew the railway. Yeah, I would have done the same thing too. Considering he followed through the Trans-Siberian Railway, that would be the obvious pick. Yeah, I woke up really early this morning, Night Zap. I know in America that may seem... Un-American. Yeah, but we're getting pretty close. 23 nautical miles. I see the old river in the front. Now, the airport we're visiting to, Yetsova, was often used for traffic for the Aleutian IL-76 strategic airlifter, as well as there's an Antonov factory and government facilities present. So that's something to keep in mind, all right? Absolutely no building. Flying over the large airport, yeah. Despite the fact it's Russia's 6th largest. Yeah, 0 runway, just runways. Yeah, the fact it's not even a small airport either. It's an international airport too. That surprised even me. You would think a runway like that would actually have buildings. It looks like we finally arrived at Novosibirsk. We finally got that done. there's the Elbe River in our timeline. We'll be able to turn right. Turn right and secret NSK airport for touch and go. So here it is, guys. There is Novosibirsk. It's going to be further down the river. I just moved the time up to here because the sunlight was bearing down. Too much rain and glare. UNT airport, but with separate runway. So here's Novosibirsk, Russia's third largest city, the largest city in all of Siberia. We'll take a quick tour over the city. And once we do that, we'll be getting ready to end the stream. And we're going to go raid 2 cats. I think that would be a really, really nice raid. Here it is, Novosibirsk. There she is. So we Any apartments? Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get landed. So let's see what we get on our landing here today. Today's landing exercise. We need to burn down some, put a bit of flaps. Let's see how good of my landing is going to be. Well, if you're looking for airport off room, it's right here. Oh gosh, I'm going to be Murph. You could put it in right here. Oh no. Who? Colonel Fork, this is all Colonel Fork's fault, Zep. I blame him for it. Eight 4 feet per second, that's a great landing. Okay. Good, we can now get this thing parked. Let me go ahead and here. There we go. That's leg 7, everyone. We got the journey done. Awesome. So that's it. We got half the journey done already. This is half of it. We're in the halfway point. In the notes, once we arrive here, the airport is run by the Russian Red Air Fleet, and the newspaper report is that we are invited to view the planes. We enter the passenger area, comfortably clean, 10-row small table, wonderful toilet. And here is Prince All. He's gonna land the Kodiak. You got it. It's not that. It's actually an easy point. Nicely done with the Cody. Yeah, the Kodiak's an amazing plane. So that's it. That's it for this stream, everyone. We finally made it to Novosibirsk. That was a great journey. Let's watch Friend All land. Yeah, and he landed beautifully in the Cody. Awesome, awesome job, everyone. I really appreciate you all coming here. So thank you everyone here for joining in. Thanks for flying with me, Nights Up. I know that Two Cats is probably still flying somewhere. So guys, for the plans for this upcoming week, so for this week on Wednesday, bring out your military jets as we're gonna fly the L-30 and Albatross through many of the different NASA Space Centers in Houston, Huntsville, and Cape Canaveral. So bring out your military jets. We're gonna do some jet flying there, and then on Sunday we are actually going to do leg 8 of the journey from Novosibirsk. And we go from there. We do we're only doing this for 2 more nautical miles than the one we did, and we'll land in Krasnoyarsk, and that would be leg 8 of the journey. Now we try to complete the second half of the journey. So thank you everyone for showing up here today. Thanks for everyone who's flown with me, be out there in the chat or even lurking. Thank you. So let's go ahead and rate Two Cats. Shall we? But he's doing his around the world trip today, so let's give him a really awesome stream and tell him that Viperstrike 95 said hello to you. So I hope everyone is having a great rest of the day. And take care, everyone. Viperstrike 95